Did you know that over 100 billion bananas are produced worldwide each year? I mean, think about that. This seemingly simple fruit is a global phenomenon. It's not just a favorite snack, it's also a vital food source for millions. But what's the real story behind this fruit we see everywhere? Well, join us as we peel back the layers of history to discover the surprising origins and incredible journey of the banana, from its wild beginnings all the way to its present-day dominance. All this we are going to learn today on Everyday Simple Science with Ray. If you are new here, kindly subscribe to our channel, like and share this video, and help us reach new people who are interested in learning about the what, why, and how of the universe. Okay, let's start with a number that's, well, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around. 100 billion. It's just a massive, staggering number. So what on earth does it represent? That right there is how many bananas we eat every single year, worldwide. It's the fourth most important food crop for the developing world. So you see, it's way more than just a quick snack for us. It's a critical pillar of food security for hundreds of millions of people. It's a really big deal. So you gotta ask, how did it get so popular? Well, a big part of the answer is what's waiting for you right under that peel. And this isn't some new health fad either. The American Medical Association was calling it a superfood way back in the early 20th century. And you know what? They were absolutely right. I mean, just look at this list. It covers so many bases, it's incredible. You've got potassium for your heart, vitamin B6 for your brain, tons of fiber for your gut. It's basically a natural energy bar that's also genuinely good for you. That's a combo you don't find every day.
All right, but here's where we get our first big plot twist. You think you know what a banana is, right? Well, it's been hiding a pretty big secret about its own identity. Let's take a look at what it actually is from a botanical point of view.
Okay, get this. A banana is technically a berry. I know, right? It grows from a flower with just one ovary, and back in its original wild form, it had multiple seeds inside. So that strawberry you love, the one with berry right in the name, botanically, not a berry. But that banana you slice up for your breakfast? Yep, 100% a berry. Mind blown.
And hey, while we're on the topic of clearing things up, let's talk about the banana's cousin, the plantain. They look pretty similar, sure, but they were grown for totally different reasons. The bananas we snack on, they were bred to be sweet and soft. Plantains, on the other hand, were bred for starch and a firm, kind of potato-like texture. That's why they're a staple cooking ingredient. You treat them more like a vegetable.
Okay, you ready for another surprise? This one might sound a little alarming at first, but just stick with me here. That banana you had for breakfast, it was actually, believe it or not, slightly radioactive.
Whoa, hold on. Before you panic, the key thing to know here is that this is completely natural and totally 100% harmless. See that same potassium that makes bananas so healthy? It includes a tiny, naturally occurring isotope called potassium-40. The dose is so ridiculously low that scientists actually use something called the banana equivalent dose as a fun, playful way to explain really tiny amounts of radiation to people. So yeah, you're fine.
Okay, now we need to shift gears a bit. We're moving from science to history. And well, this is where the story takes a much darker turn. The journey of the banana to becoming this global superstar is tangled up in a really rough history of corporate power and political exploitation.
And right at the heart of that dark story is a company called the United Fruit Company. It was formed back in 1899, and as you can see, its growth was just explosive. We're talking about a company that built its own railroads, its own ports, even entire towns. It was basically creating its own little countries inside of other countries all across Central America.
In all the places it controlled, United Fruit got a nickname El Pulpo. That's Spanish for the octopus. And honestly, it's the perfect description. Its corporate tentacles reached into absolutely everything. We're talking labor, transportation, and yeah, even the highest levels of government.
And all of that immense power is exactly where the term banana republic comes from. It was never just about the fruit. It came to describe whole countries, sovereign nations, whose economies and governments were being manipulated, sometimes in really brutal ways, by this foreign company. And all of it was to make sure that a cheap, steady supply of bananas kept flowing to places like the US and Europe.
So to really get how we ended up here, we have to go way back in time. I'm talking thousands of years, long before the United Fruit Company was even a thought. We have to go back to the very origin of the banana. So let's follow that journey and see how a wild, practically inedible fruit turned into the one we all know and love today. So take a look.
This is what the original, wild ancestor of our modern banana looked like. And trust me, you wouldn't want to peel one of these for a snack. They were almost totally inedible, just filled with these huge, hard, basically bullet-like seeds, and barely any fruit. They were nothing like what we have today.
The big change started about 7,000 years ago over in what's now Papua New Guinea. That's when early farmers stumbled upon these rare natural mutations, plants that were seedless. They started cultivating them, and from there, the banana began this incredible journey around the globe. It was passed along from Austronesian sailors to Arab traders, and then to European colonizers, becoming a staple food on continent after continent.
Now, here's the really crucial part of the story. Because these new domesticated bananas were seedless, they couldn't reproduce the normal way. So how do we get more? Well, for thousands of years, every commercial banana plant has been grown by taking a cutting from a parent plant and just replanting it.
These bananas. Now I'm going to show you how you could grab your own baby banana plant off of a mama banana. This is going to get used to grow your next banana plant. You could either use this shovel or this shovel, something with a point on it, and you locate which baby banana plant or banana pup you want to pull. So this is the one we're going to pull because we rather have this one behind it grow up and turn into bananas. You see every single one of these, they get bigger and bigger and turn into bananas. So this one is going to be bananas next. And then the small bananas right here are coming up and going to be bananas next. So I locate this banana right here. This is the one I want to pull and I want to grow somewhere else. First thing I do is I take the mulch out from around it to see where it connects to the big banana clumps. So I see that it's connecting there, so I'm just going to get up behind it, strike it like that. If you get a nice pair of boots, you get under it and you'll hear like a little pop, and it just comes out real nice. You're going to be able to grow another banana plant if it has roots. So this one's good to go. All you got to do is you got to find a spot for it. Make sure the spot has some moisture to it. Bananas love to drink, and make sure you put a lot of mulch around it, put a lot of other natural fertilizer.
Okay, so let's fast forward to the 20th century. This is where the banana industry's biggest strength, the fact that they were all identical, suddenly becomes its greatest, most dangerous weakness. It led to a crisis back then that is terrifyingly repeating itself right now.
You see, for the first half of the 20th century, the banana that everyone ate wasn't the one we have today. It was called the Gros Michel. People said it was creamier, tasted better, but then this fungus, this thing called Panama disease, started sweeping through the plantations. And because every single Gros Michel plant was a clone, they were all genetically identical. They had no defense, none. The fungus just wiped them out. It drove them to commercial extinction. The whole global banana industry was literally on the brink of collapse. It was only saved because they managed to find one single variety that happened to be resistant to that strain of the fungus. Its name? The Cavendish. So every plantation in the world ripped up their dying plants and replaced them. And yeah, the Cavendish is the banana that we've all been eating ever since.
But just look at this. It's happening again. History is repeating itself with chilling precision. A brand new strain of the exact same fungus, this one's called Tropical Race 4, or TR4, has shown up. And the Cavendish? Well, it might be resistant to that old strain, but against this new one, it has absolutely no defense.
And because we made the exact same mistake again, our entire global supply relies on one single clone variety. Every Cavendish plant in the world is just a sitting duck. The very thing that makes growing bananas so efficient, this monoculture, is also what makes it incredibly, incredibly fragile. This new disease is spreading all over the world, and this time, we don't have a replacement waiting in the wings.
So that leaves us with the big, scary question, doesn't it? We are literally watching the sequel to a disaster movie we've already seen. The Cavendish is facing the exact same enemy that destroyed its predecessor. The challenge for us, right now, is can we learn from the past? Can we innovate our way out of this mess, beyond just planting a single type of banana? Or are we just doomed to watch the world's favorite fruit disappear all over again? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed peeling back the layers on the banana, please subscribe to Everyday Simple Science with Ray, like and share this video, and make sure to turn on your notifications so you never miss another Explain.